Aligning text and numbers in Excel. Have you ever typed something into a cell and noticed it automatically jumped to one side? Or maybe you've struggled to get a title centered nicely above your data. How Excel aligns things by default. Before you start moving things around, it helps to understand what Excel does automatically when you type something into a cell. If you type a number, like 5,000, and press Enter, that value will stick to the right side of the cell. Try typing a word instead, something like Reza Mirjahan, and you'll see it hugs the left side. Now type in a date, perhaps the 1st of January 2026, and press Enter. That date will also move to the right. So here's the simple rule to remember. Numbers and dates always align to the right by default. Text always aligns to the left by default. Of course, these defaults are just starting points. You can change any of them whenever you like. Where to find the alignment tools. Everything we're going to work with lives on the Home ribbon, inside a group called Alignment. When you look at this group, you'll notice a small collection of 6 icons arranged in 2 rows of 3. These 6 buttons are your main controls for positioning content inside cells. The top row of 3 icons handles vertical alignment, which means where content sits between the top and bottom edges of a cell. The bottom row of 3 icons handles horizontal alignment, which means where content sits between the left and right edges of a cell. Controlling horizontal alignment. Let's start with the bottom 3 icons, since horizontal alignment is what most people think of first. The first button aligns everything to the left edge of the cell. The middle button centers the content. The third button pushes everything to the right edge. Imagine you have a row of column headings at the top of your data. By default, those text headings are sitting on the left. If you select that entire heading row and click the Center Alignment button, every heading shifts to the middle of its cell. If you click the Right Alignment button instead, they all move to the right side. Simple as that. Controlling vertical alignment. Vertical alignment becomes much more noticeable when your rows are taller than usual. If you make a heading row taller by dragging its border down, you'll see that all your headings drop to the bottom of the cells. That's the default vertical alignment in Excel. Bottom alignment. Maybe bottom alignment looks fine to you, or maybe you'd prefer those headings to sit in the middle of the row, or even at the very top. This is where those top 3 icons come in. Select your cells, then click the middle alignment button to vertically center the content. Click the top alignment button to push everything up to the top edge. If you want content perfectly centered in every direction, you'd use middle alignment for vertical and center alignment for horizontal. Now your content floats right in the middle of each cell, both up and down and left to right. Rotating and angling text. Next to the alignment icons, you'll find a button that controls text orientation. By default, everything you type runs horizontally, which is what you'll use most of the time. But sometimes angling your text can make a spreadsheet more compact or visually interesting. Select the cells you want to rotate, then open the orientation options. You can angle text counterclockwise or clockwise. You can make it run straight up and down, vertically. You can rotate the text up or rotate it down. If you angle your headings counterclockwise, for example, they'll slant upward to the left. You'll probably want to make that row a bit taller so the angled text has room to display properly. If you need precise control, there's an option to format cell alignment, where you can set the exact number of degrees for rotation. This gives you fine-tuned control over exactly how tilted your text appears. If you experiment with rotation and decide you don't like it, just undo your changes to get back to normal horizontal text. Indenting content within cells. Underneath the main alignment icons, you'll find 2 buttons that control indentation. By default, text you type into a cell has no indentation at all. It starts right at the edge. But let's say you want to show a hierarchy or make certain entries look like sub-items. Select a cell and click the Increase Indent button. The content shifts inward, away from the cell edge. Click it again, and it moves even further in. If you've gone too far, click the Decrease Indent button to move it back. This is particularly handy when you have a cell with multiple lines of text and you want to visually distinguish a main item from the items that belong under it. Wrapping text to show everything. Sometimes you have a long piece of text in a cell, but the column isn't wide enough to show it all. The text just gets cut off at the edge, and you can't see the rest without widening the column. But what if you can't make the column wider? Maybe you have a specific layout requirement. This is where the Wrap Text feature saves the day. Select the cells with long text and click the Wrap Text button. Excel will automatically make the rows taller to accommodate all the text, spreading it across multiple lines within the same cell. The column width stays exactly the same, but now you can read everything. If you decide you don't want wrapped text after all, just select those cells again and click Wrap Text to toggle it off. The rows will shrink back down, and you can double-click the column border to auto-resize it if needed. Manual line breaks. Wrap Text automatically decides where to break lines based on the column width, but sometimes you want a line break in a very specific spot. Let's say you have a text that reads, "How do you control text and number alignment in Excel?" and you want alignment in Excel to appear on its own line. Double-click the cell to enter edit mode. Position your cursor exactly where you want the break and press Alt plus Enter. The text after your cursor drops to a new line. This manual line break is different from automatic mapping because you've chosen exactly where the break happens. If you want to undo it, you can select the cell and toggle off Wrap Text, which will reverse the manual break as well. Merging cells to center a title. Now let's talk about one of the most common alignment challenges. You have a title at the top of your spreadsheet, something like, "How do horizontal and vertical alignment work in Excel?" The title sits in one cell, let's say cell A20, but your data spans multiple columns. You might think clicking the Center Alignment button would center that title across your data, but if you try it, you'll see it only centers the text within cell A20. The title doesn't magically spread across to center above columns A through D. To truly center a title across multiple columns, you need to merge cells. Here's how it works. Select all the cells across the top that match the width of your data below. If your data spans columns A through D, select cells A20 through D20, then look for the Merge and Center button in the alignment group. When you click Merge and Center, Excel does two things at once. First, it combines those 4 separate cells into one large cell. Second, it centers whatever content was in the leftmost cell. Your title now appears perfectly centered across the merged area. Other merge options. The Merge and Center button actually has a small drop-down with additional choices. Merge Across will combine the selected cells into one, but it won't center the content. Your text stays wherever it was originally positioned. Merge Cells does essentially the same thing in most situations, combining cells without centering. Unmerge Cells reverses any merge you've done, splitting that large cell back into the original separate cells. For a title that needs to be centered above data, Merge and Center is usually the quickest choice. After merging, you can apply additional formatting, like increasing the font size or adding a background color to make the title stand out. Accessing additional alignment settings. If you look carefully at the alignment group on the ribbon, you'll notice a tiny diagonal arrow in the bottom corner. Clicking this arrow opens a more detailed alignment settings window. Inside this window, you'll find all the same options we've discussed, plus some extras. The text alignment dropdowns include additional positioning options that aren't shown on the ribbon itself. You'll also find text control settings. Wrap Text is here, and so is an interesting option called Shrink to Fit. Shrink to Fit takes whatever text is in a cell and automatically reduces the font size until the text fits perfectly within the current cell width. If you have a sentence like, "How do you control text and number alignment in Excel?" and you need it to fit in a narrow cell without changing the column width, Shrink to Fit will squeeze the text down. The catch is that the text can become extremely small and hard to read if the cell is too narrow. This option works best when you only need a slight reduction. For extreme cases, it's usually better to widen the column or use text wrapping instead. Just know these additional settings exist whenever you need more control than the ribbon buttons provide.